Shalom, I'm Moreh Matan, and welcome to this week's Moreh Minute. This week we have another double portion of Bahar and Bechukotai, and I'd like to take this opportunity to explain the root of that word, Bechukotai, as the word chok. A chok is one of the types of commandments that we are given in the Torah. I want to talk about three of them. We have a mishpat, or in the plural, mishpatim. We have a chok that I just mentioned, or chukim in the plural. And then we have an ed, or edot. And let me just explain the three of these. Edot are, well, this comes from the root word ed, which means a testimony or a witness. So these are like testimonials. And in some translations, some English translations of the Bible, this will be rendered in English as testimonials. These are commandments that are given to the Jewish people, like the mezuzah, like the Sabbath, like Passover, which basically testify to the God of Israel and the call of the Jewish people. They sort of are identity markers for the Jews, these edot. We are given a reason as to why to do them. It is explained. Usually it says to do this, and this is why you do it. Now, another of these three forms of commandments that I'm going to talk about today is the mishpat. And the mishpat, or the mishpatim in the plural, usually refers to laws and commandments that are given in what we would call our horizontal relationships. These are laws regarding how we treat one another, our fellow human beings. And so these are also explained. Do this because of this, or don't do this for this reason. That's what these mishpatim are. And by the way, when you read the Bible in English, it's not just giving sort of synonyms for commandments. When it will say something like, for instance, in the Proverbs in English, when it will say my laws, my statutes, and my decrees. It's not just embellishing. These are three separate types of laws. And this particular one, the chok, this would include things like the laws of kosher, or to wave a lulav at Sukkot, or to blow the shofar, or to hear the shofar. These are commandments that are given, and we're supposed to do them, but we're not really given a rational reason as to why we are doing them. And that can, for some, be a little frustrating. It can remind us of when we're children and we're told to do something by a parent, and we ask, well, why do I need to do that? And their answer is, because I said so, or because I'm the parent. Why does God want the Jewish people to eat kosher? There are people that will try to put a rational reason behind it, or perhaps even a benefit behind that, but that's not why God commanded the Jewish people to do that particular commandment. This, for instance, usually comes up when people talk about the health benefits of eating kosher, or perhaps the bad things that can happen to one's body from eating pork. Now, I have to explain to us, and I go over this in the Kosher Pastor program as well, that God did not give the kosher rules to the Jewish people to keep them more healthy, but rather to keep them holy, to keep them separate, to make them different from all the other nations on the earth. So although there may be some health benefits to eating kosher, that's not why we do it. The reason we do it is because God said so. It's one of those commandments that we don't really have a lot of explanation about. We do it because God said to do it. It reminds me of people that I know in my family that have been in the military that tell me that when you are told by a commanding officer to do something, well, then that's just what you do. You don't question it. You just do it. If someone is ahead of you in the chain of command and you are commanded to do something, you do it without question. You just do it because they said to do it. And that's kind of what these chukim are like. Think about this in your life, of these different types of commands that God gives us. They're all important. The ones, the mishpatim, the ones that are used between human to human, these are very important. It's where we have a lot of ethics. But if you think about it, probably any thinking society could come up with rules and laws like don't steal or don't kill, things like that. They just make sense. And certain nations who would want to have a certain national identity could probably come up with laws and rules that are testimonials, that are special to them. But these chukim are given simply because God wants us to do that. God wants us to live that way. Now, something that I really need to mention to those of you that are watching that are like me, that come from a Gentile background, we are not bound to these Torah laws like the Jewish people are. We are invited to participate in them. After all, we are grafted in, and we can willingly graft ourselves into Israel by doing the things that Israel does. I don't have to cover my head, for instance. I do that because that's a Jewish tradition, and I live out a Jewish expression of faith. There are many things that I do, like eating kosher, that I don't have to do. In fact, if I'm being honest, most of the Jewish people that I know that are not believers don't eat kosher. I do because I choose to. I don't have to. I could eat bacon if I wanted to. I'm not Jewish. So some of these are to mark the Jewish people as different than everyone else, and some of them are because God said so. And I think that can help our relationship with God, not hinder it, if we are willing to do things that He says simply because He said it. Thank you for joining me today. If you'd like to join the Kosher Pastor program, it is a bachelor's level education. Go to kosherpastor.com and scroll down and click on the link where it says click here to sign up for the Kosher Pastor program. Currently there are 7 courses, 3 of which were filmed in the Holy Land of Israel. Right now we're running a special during this COVID-19 pandemic of $400 for all 7 courses. That makes them less than $70 each. Get your education. Be willing to get your Messianic Jewish education. And then, of course, we hope after the introduction to this wonderful teaching that you'll join us in Yeshivat Shuvu, where I study. You could study where I do. Thank you for joining me today. Once again, I'm Moreh Matan, and I'm praying that if God asks you to do something, you just do it.